Hello everybody, and Jess here, and welcome back to Shangri-La Frontier episode 41, in which the new adventure begins, right? The adventure with the expansion content, I think, right? Like sailing the seven seas and looking for the Kraken boss monster and stuff like that. It's pretty damn clear that we are entering a new arc, so kind of hard to make any, more discreet predictions about what's gonna happen exactly. Well, we're gonna meet Roost, we're gonna meet Mold, we've already seen them, and we're gonna go from there. Yeah, that's basically it. A little bit of housekeeping at the start. You probably have noticed that I haven't been uploading anything for the past week, and this episode of Shangri-La is in fact a week late. Sorry for that, but the entire week my cat was very sick, and she was just vomiting all over the place and just feeling super bad. And it was, I think, the second vet we took her to that diagnosed pancreatitis. So we know what's wrong, we know how to treat it and how to cure it, and she's gonna be, healthy in a week or two. But that entire week was kind of stressful. I didn't really have any, mind towards recording. But yeah, here we are now and recording again. And I'm gonna catch up to Shangri-La. So, regardless of that, what happened in the previous episode? Well, in the previous episode, Sanraku got spat back out to the real world by the little Lycagon ball. Right? That was the previous episode, I think. Was it? It was, wasn't it? Or was it the one before it? I don't know. But yeah, Sanraku learned of the effects of being spat out by the Lycagon ball, and apparently it did not remove his curse. It made it stronger, it made it grow more, and it made it give him more effects, right? Like a little bit of a buff. He can equip armor now on the body parts affected with the curse, but the armor is just gonna get destroyed in X amount of time. So it's something that he can use to like equip some stat sticks, essentially, buff his stats temporarily, do a big attack or withstand a big attack, and then just the armor breaks. So he's gonna have to spend a lot of money on armor, or he's gonna have to ask B to make him a lot of armor, and it's gonna be interesting. It's really gonna be an interesting mechanic to see how Sanraku is gonna use it exactly, because we all know that he's gonna exploit the living shit out of it, and it's gonna be glorious. Besides that, there was also a fight with the area zone boss, and it was just completely skipped. It was just completely skipped because, I mean, after the fight with Lycagon, like any other fight would just be, you know, it wouldn't be up to par, it wouldn't be up there with the Lycagon fight, so why even bother? So they just skipped it, and I kinda love that decision, especially after they had the whole talk where they were talking about the fight, and Emul apparently was completely out of it and completely got some sort of amnesia, didn't remember the fight, and heard so many horrifying things about what happened exactly. That was fun. They arrived to the city and met a met a weird old dude in some back alley, and apparently that is the mechanic for like surpassing level cap or something along those lines, right? When once you reach the level cap, this NPC arrives and you can pick one of the cards. You don't know what it is, and it's gonna give you some buff and some debuff based on the way you were playing so far, right? Something along those lines. Can't quite remember what sort of deal did Ray get. Yeah, can't quite recall. I think it was something like more susceptibility to not environmental, but like elemental attacks, but more resistance to physical attacks, something like that, I think. Sanraku got the Fool, which is very fitting. And the effect of that is huh, can't quite recall either. I think it was something like there is a chance that healing won't work on him, and there's a chance that healing won't work on him. Negative statuses last longer, but in exchange for those debuffs, he gets shorter cooldowns on all of his abilities. So quite a sweet deal. And Sanraku himself observed it, that the solution to that is just don't get hit. Just don't get hit. If the enemy doesn't hit you, then you're not gonna use healing. If the enemy doesn't hit you, then they're not gonna apply elemental effect. Just don't get hit. Easy. Skill issue if you do get hit. So that's fun. That's cool. That's going to like railroad Sanraku a little bit deeper into his chosen playstyle, and I wonder what's next, because somehow I don't think that it's just level cap, old dude, and that's it. And that's where the progression ends. I think there's gotta be something more. Perhaps in the new expansion you can get like a crystal or whatever that expands your level cap, or maybe you can level up the card that you get from the old man or something like that, right? Usually there is some additional, I don't want to say meta progression, but like additional bit of progression besides or beyond level cap. Not always, of course, but Shangri-La does strike me as a game that would certainly have something past the level cap. So we'll see what it is, if anything, because hey, I might be completely wrong here. So I think we should just start watching this episode, right? Shall we? To do that, you're gonna need your subs to follow along with me. I'm gonna need my sound to hear what's going on in the show. And I'm going to have to ask you for support. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, YouTube, down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you nothing and helps a lot. And with that, we can start watching Shangri-La Frontier, episode 41 in 3, 2, 1, go. It's recording? Yeah, it's recording. Good. Starting with the OP. Speaking of Patreon, I released the first episode of not of Shangri-La Frontier. That was the first name that came to my head. No, the first episode of Symphogear. How did that name elude my mind? Yeah, the first episode of Symphogear, edited with picture-in-picture on the, I think, the lowest tier, or the $5 tier, or something like that. It's a bit of a test run. Once I get enough feedback about how's the sound balancing, how's the editing and everything, I'm gonna start releasing all of my old series, starting with the non-seasonal shows, as picture-in-picture. So if you have any feedback about that, then let me know on Patreon or on Discord, or even in a comment below. Weathermon. Why are we doing Weathermon? Yeah, that's going back a fair bit. Are we gonna follow Oikatsu for this episode? Yeah, you did not think it's gonna do that. Oh, maybe you did. Or it's like an innate dodge stat. Yeah, easy. He is a pro gamer after all. Leveling level by level, while Sanraku just got from like 40 to 100 in a single fight. Oh, right. Oikatsu traded his levels for a boost in strength. Right, yeah. That was the mechanic. Damn. Hmm. He was curious about the game itself. Ooh, that's curious. Okay, so to get used to the engine, he started playing Shangri-La to get a feeling for how the game feels because the like competitive game that's coming out is gonna feel similarly. Yeah, okay, that makes sense actually. Yeah. I mean, chances are if you can evade Weathermon's strike, you can evade a strike from a human opponent. You would have probably lost, yes. Interesting though that. Oh, hello, Weathermon. Interesting though that he doesn't seem particularly into PvP in Shangri-La. Like, you'd think he'd be doing a lot of PvP. Oh, is he just, like, daydreaming? Yeah, just daydreaming. I mean, different playstyles, right? Weathermon is very fast, so picking someone who has a lot of speed makes sense to face off against Weathermon, right? If there's a boss that's mostly just a like DPS check, then yeah, Oikatsu would probably be a better fit. Oh, it's a boss lobster thing. Gotta fight the red lobster. Chance at a unique scenario, maybe. uh, yeah, you gotta think outside the box a little. That's what makes Sanraku a better fit. What made him a better fit to like fighting Weathermon. But you won. Yeah? uh, yeah. Especially when Sanraku equips Emul Blaster. Hmm. True. A pro gamer. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, yeah, I guess. Sanraku did have help from Emul. Oikatsu is like completely solo here. Maybe don't attack head on though. Just a thought. It is a pretty, chunky carapace. You probably want to attack the like soft spots. And now we're gonna follow Pencil Gun for a while. What do you mean? What do you mean stoppage time? Did I forget about some bit where she was like trapped in a stopped time or something? Or I love how money in this game is just called money. So what, gotta rely on quest weapons? Or gambling for weapons? Exchange trade with other players? Yeah. Uh, don't tell me that's why she wanted the alliance. Don't tell me that was her only reason. She's got an eye for weapons. Yeah, that's a good description of her. Unpredictable element. Yeah. And it was worth it. She did have very, like, personal stakes in it, in a way. Oh, did she learn about this story before she started playing? Or did she, like, encounter this early on and made it her reason for playing? That's a good question. Nah, we're pulling an all-nighter. That's a lot of spears. No, not whatsoever. Yeah, of course it's a lie. Yeah. Yeah, no time to check. No time to explain, get in the car. It's really obvious right now. If it wasn't obvious, she's lying, yeah. Now it's obvious. I mean, true. The possibility is there. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, she's probably not gonna care much about, like, 3 spears going missing from the inventory. Nope. Actually, it's good there was a player there, because if it was guarded by an NPC, chances are it wouldn't have fallen for her lies. So it was actually to her benefit. What does it mean, a stoppage time? Hmm, that's curious. True. What could be in the West? If I recall the map of the world, it's not the sea. The sea is, like, in the northeast. Well, I mean, tough. Weapons have already been transferred. uh, true. I mean, why not? It's fun. Fucking around in games is fun. I always enjoyed in in Elder Scrolls Online. In one of the cities, there was this, like, king's castle or something, I always enjoyed sneaking around and just stealing everything clean from there. Because why not? Because it was fun. So it's probably Bahamut in the west. Oh, stoppage time as in the time between finishing one thing she wanted to do and finding another thing that she wants to do. Gotcha. Okay, in this sense. So, like, a bit of downtime, you could say, right? Okay. And now we're back at the studio. Been a while. A little bit early, wasn't it? Only a few days, really. I was under the impression that a little bit more time has passed. Yeah, eat those digestives. Then retinal scan. Yep. Uh, I love how his design is just so, strong and serious, but he's just a goober. Hmm. No problems here, apparently. Okay. Yeah, it's the real Lycagon that affects the story. Gotcha. Yeah? I mean, makes sense. If you made a hard encounter, then you want only the best to be able to win it. Yeah, big difference. Oh. Oh. uh, yeah. Eat your pills, man. Amazing music. Uh, real PvP. The poor, poor man. Uh, you should play Shangri-La to distress, maybe. Uh, just don't overdose. You're gonna get constipated. Mistake. Yeah. And there go the pills. Okay. That was a fun, kind of an OVA, essentially, right? Like you sometimes get at the end of a season, right? You get an OVA that maybe talks about things that weren't talked about during the main season, expanding the background characters a little, stuff like that. This episode felt like that, and I'm actually perfectly fine with it. There was that crayfish that Oikatsu fought. Interesting that the song has a very like upbeat tune and melody, but the lyrics are like reality hurts. It's like pumped up kicks. Mini? No, no Mini this time around. Alrighty then. Let's watch it again, shall we? As we shall, as we always do. OP. Yeah, we got a background on Oikatsu getting some levels, slowly but surely. Yeah, I completely forgot that his levels were lowered that much during the fight with Weathermon, but yeah, it actually was. It was a big, like, plot point. Well, maybe not a big plot point, but it was a big thing during the fight. Every water droplet has a hitbox, and the drop items even have dirt on them. That's actually not all that hard to do. Just, if we're being completely honest here, at least in Unreal, I know that you can uh, do various things when particle effects collide with meshes and actors. So you could probably make individual particles deal damage. I'm gonna have to look into it because I think it's actually pretty damn simple to do. And items having dirt on them, it's just a matter of an additional material, additional texture, and some sort of a mask applied to it where you clear it and the mask just dissolves and as the dirt dissolves with it. So not all that hard to do either. I mean, the thing where only the part where you clear it, where you clean it, gets clean, sure, but like making items and environments and stuff like that cleaner or dirtier or stuff like that, generally not hard to do. Uh, but yeah, it very much is a sign of quality though. Uh, I always like to think that the real sign of quality in a game is that the je ne sais quoi, right? That thing in it that shows that someone put some care into it, right? It's the difference between a health bar that just reduces as you take damage and a health bar that reduces, but then it has that bit that follows slowly and gets like even with the top health bar, right? Like in Souls games, for example, right? It's the difference between like take a game where you're a triangle bumping into circles looking for squares. It would be a very boring game, but make it so that the triangle has a little bit of acceleration. Add some particle effects, some trail behind the triangle. Make it so that the circles have like jello physics. They wobble as you interact with them, right? Stuff like that. Those little tiny things that don't really matter for the gameplay, but really show those bits of care that someone actually put into this game. That the goal wasn't to just ship it out as fast as possible. The goal was to make something polished and something fun, right? So yeah, when it comes to quality, then little things like drops of water having individual hitboxes and being able to clean the loot that you get, like individually in places, yeah, that actually is a sign of quality for sure. Shuffler engine. Yeah, Galaxia Heroes, apparently some sort of a competitive game. Yeah, the most popular fighting game on the world tournament scene. Works on the same engine as Shangri-La, so he wanted to see how it plays, how the engine itself plays. Which doesn't always, like, engine doesn't always matter all that much. Right? Like, sure, if every game just sticks to the defaults of Unity or the defaults of Unreal or the defaults of Godot, then all the games that stick to the defaults will feel more or less the same, right? The jump height will be the same, the physics of a jump will be the same, the movement speed will be the same, sure. But if you put a little bit of care, then they will feel different. Because you will maybe make the player a little lighter or a little heavier, or you're gonna give them more air control in the air, or less air control, or maybe higher movement speed, or maybe lower movement speed, or maybe that's actually a neat trick. Realistically, quote unquote, jump in Unreal, I have the most experience with it, so I can only speak on that, is like more or less the same speed as you go up is the speed that you go down, right? It's more or less like that. But the nice trick to make the jump feel a little more snappy is once the player reaches the apex of the jump, you slowly start increasing gravity as they go down. So they really just start zooming it for the ground. And then once they land, you reset gravity back to 1. It doesn't fit like physics, it's not physically accurate, but it makes jumps feel a little better. So chances are that this, like, what, Galaxia Heroes? Yeah, Galaxia Heroes is gonna feel like Shangri-La, but chances are it's not gonna. So I'm not sure how big of a difference it's gonna make that he's training on Shangri-La and he's training in PvE. Like, I'd expect him to do some PvP fighting. Actually, it makes so much sense that he's chosen a monk. Galaxia Heroes is a fighting game, right? Like, I don't know, Tekken. And people there are usually brawlers with different movesets and whatnot, but just, bare hands most commonly. So, oh, that really explains his choice of a class, doesn't it? I like it. I like this little tidbit that he wanted to play Shangri-La to train for Galaxia Heroes and chose the class that is the closest to who he would be playing in Galaxia Heroes. That's cool. I like it. I really do. Doesn't make sense that he's doing mostly PvE. Like, I'd expect him to be doing a lot of PvP, but sure. If the one fighting Weathermon had been me instead of Sanraku, you probably would not have won, because Sanraku has two very important things that were very important for the fight with Weathermon. One, his build is focused entirely on speed and luck. And Weathermon has some very hard-hitting attacks. I believe some of them are even like insta-kills, right? Some of them were insta-kills where you just have to dodge. Someone slower would not be able to dodge, right? So Sanraku was a perfect fit there. And Sanraku really looks outside of the box. When he's fighting some worthy opponent that he can't just, unga bunga with his abilities, then he starts thinking outside of the box. Maybe I can lure the scorpions into the pit and drop them there. Maybe I can lure those little scorpions towards the big scorpion and they're gonna fight, right? Maybe it's worth trying this, maybe it's worth trying that. He's thinking outside of the box, and that's what makes him such a good fit to be the main main player against any given boss. And yeah, time to fight the crayfish. See, the first thing he jumped into was Spirit Fist Red, the move that he used to finish off the serpent, which makes me think it's one of his stronger moves. And, well, I used one of my stronger moves. I got parried by the crayfish. What do I do now? Right? It creates this sort of an issue where you don't necessarily try to look outside of the box in the way that Sanaku does. Yeah, Sanaku won the fight with Emul. I love how Emul does the gestures with her ears. That's great. That's great. Yeah, if I can solo this thing on my first go round, that means I win. Yeah, technically, Saraku didn't truly solo it, right? He had a companion. I wonder how that fight went. Did he win? Did he not? He probably did, but I would very much like to have seen it. Oh well. Simultaneously in the hidden garden. I wonder how long I'll stay in stoppage time like this. Is stoppage time an actual term that people use in gaming? Like, I don't know, you finish the new expansion in WoW and you say, oh, I'm in stoppage time until the next expansion happens? Is that something people say? I've never heard this term. That's why it confused me so much. I thought that she's like trapped here in this valley with Setsuna's grave or something, and she can't go out, or she's like, I mean, she couldn't be like trapped in time or whatever because everything happens more or less in real time, right? So it wouldn't work. But yeah, I've never heard this term. 500 million money, yeah. I'm not allowed to make any monetary transactions. That's a very cool limitation. Once you get into so much debt, you just can't make monetary transactions. It still leaves you venues to like play, right? It doesn't just completely brick your account. If you have your weapons, or maybe you can borrow some weapons, or maybe you can get some weapons gifted from a friend, or maybe you can craft them, right? You still have ways to play, and you still have ways to earn that money and pay off that debt. That's cool. I like this as a mechanic. And yeah, the only thing that she can do is get some freebies. To put Wedram on the Tomb Guard at peace, because that was what Setsuna wanted. It wasn't just an immediate goal, it was basically my reason for playing Shangri-La itself. I think what she means here is that first she started playing Shangri-La kinda aimlessly, right? Like she joined the PvP clan and was doing some PvP, was doing some PKing because that's what she was used to from previous games. But it was just, kind of bullshitting around. But then she found out about Setsuna, and that made her want to actually like play the game and experience it, right? She got hooked into the lore, into the characters, into everything. Right? She recognized the game as more than just being a PvP arena. I think that's what she means here. What should I lose myself in this game over next? Yeah, that's always a dilemma. whenever you finish anything, really. You finish a game, well, shit, what should I play next? There is not a game exactly like this, so what else am I gonna play? And you sometimes need to take a couple of tries, try some different games, and maybe finally eventually get into something. I have this issue with books. I finish a book, it was a great book, and I would like to read more, but it ended, and what am I supposed to read next? There's nothing else that's exactly like it. I don't know anything that would be like 80% like it. What am I gonna read now? And I sometimes read like 1 or 2 or 3 chapters of like a few books until I finally find the one that grabs me and makes me want to read. It's the same with watching anime, with watching TV shows, with watching Let's Plays and playthroughs. I'm gonna be honest. I recently really got into VODs of live streams by one Tira Lira, and I finished her playthrough of Lies of P, and I finished her playthrough of Lords of the Fallen, and what do I watch now? Right? So I fully understand what Pencil Gun feels here. It's time to look out? No, never. It's all-nighters all the time. Shangri-La, I noticed. I mean, I probably talked about it even in season 1, but I noticed that some of the design, some of the frames, some of the scenes have that very like 90s or early 2000s anime vibe to them, right? Like this mouth shape or this mouth shape from the side and this like just thick line for an eye. It's something that you could find in, I don't know, what was the anime where the dude was collecting waifus? I mean, that doesn't really narrow it down more, does it? But they were like fighting, and one of the waifus was not a waifu, it was actually a man, but then he slowly started turning into a waifu. It was weird, but right, like this age of anime had this sort of a face or this sort of a face, and it's really cool watching Shangri-La and getting this vibe that, hey, I could have seen something like that all the way in like primary school or whenever. I don't know. I just think it's neat. It's nothing super big or super major, but I just always get a little bit of a kick out of seeing it. Uh-huh. Doesn't affect her stats, but it leads her west, right? West. Trying to remember the map of Shangri-La, but I think it's the sea in northeast and mountains in the west. I think that's more or less how it is. So something beckons her towards the mountains. Presumably that's where the Bahamut. That's where the Bahamut is. So yeah, Saraku is going after the Cthulhu. Um, Towa is going after the Bahamut, presumably. We don't really know what's Oikatsu after, besides beating the shrimp. Yeah, we don't really know what goals does he have. I think that might actually be a plot point here, that his goals are like outside of Shangri-La, maybe. Maybe Galaxy Heroes finally launches, right? Because there is that bit in the ending where he's walking around with other like pro gamers, and there is that bit in the opening as well showing them. So maybe something like that. I love the gap moe to this dude. Like, he looks so incredibly intense and so incredibly serious, and the line of his eyebrows is something that Satsuki Kiryuin would not be ashamed of. But he has IBS. This poor man just has IBS, and he's so scared of those two women. I love them. They all look so incredibly serious and so incredibly intense, and she just looks like a JoJo character, and they're just a bunch of silly fucking goobers. There's absolutely nothing sinister about them. They're not doing like a, I don't know, social experiment. They're not gonna pull the plug and trap them in the game or anything like that. They look like they would, but they're not gonna. I really find this gap super appealing. Yeah, Lycagon was buffed. So Saraku not only beat Lycagon's shadow that he had trouble at the beginning, he beat the buffed version of it. God damn, my dude. This poor man's stomach. He really should be getting like additional danger pay for being their manager. Yeah, here's the pro gamers with Kei Uomi. Yeah, I really wonder where that's gonna go. I think we might be going for a bit of like split storytelling, where a little bit we follow Sanraku on his travels through the like seven seas and hunting the Cthulhu, and then we follow Kay a little bit as he's playing Galaxia Heroes, maybe something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, that's gonna be it for this episode of Shangri-La Frontier, and it was a fun one, honestly. Would I have rather seen directly the beginning of a new arc, meeting up with Roost and Mold and setting off towards adventure? I'm honestly not sure. Like, I wanted to say yes, in a way. I would like to have the experience unbroken, in a way. But on the other hand, this episode was fun. It gave us some nice tidbits of information about Oikatsu, right? Why he plays Shangri-La, why he plays the class that he does, right? At least we can surmise that. We know a little bit more about Towa's pencil gun psychology, right? What makes her tick, what makes her go where she needs to go, what influenced her creating the alliance, right? We know stuff like that. And then we got a comedic bit with the developers, and we learned that Saraku beat the harder version of Lycagon's Shadow. So ultimately, I enjoyed this episode. Would I have noticed if it wasn't there? Absolutely not. I would not have batted an eye if it wasn't there. I would not be even questioning why Oikatsu is playing a monk. I would not be questioning where Pencil Gun got her weapons from. Absolutely not. But now that this episode was there, I like that it was there. It did some cool things, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's it, honestly. It was ultimately a fun episode that wasn't necessary, but I feel better for having seen it. That's how I would summarize my feelings towards it. But you guys, you tell me, what did you think of this episode, of my reaction, of my theories, stuff like that, in the comments down below. Did you like this episode as it is, or would you rather have jumped straight into the next arc with Sanraku? I'm curious about that. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to be notified of future videos, not only Shangri-La, but also Dr. House is an Anime Girl, Sakamoto Days, and plenty others coming in the future. Click the bell to be notified when those videos go up and when I go live, because I stream sometimes. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon or YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs absolutely nothing to do so and helps the channel a lot. And now with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my one for Patreons: QB, The Rainer, Zimbel, Thor, Dr. Wodaka, Monster, Marsh, Vassal, and Hans Peter. And you can join them if you want without having to fight a crayfish.